Sometimes people email me and they say, I've been doing so well on OMAD, but lately I'm having cravings. What's the problem? Why does this keep happening? Well, it's likely happening because you haven't been honoring the 4-hour eating window that I mentioned in the basic OMAD plan. Now, if your goal has been to lose weight, then your goal is always to have stability in your habits. But if you have been drinking sweet beverages or caloric beverages during the fasting period, or you have been switching your meal times around too often, or you have been eating early, those will start to destabilize your insulin levels. Now, look here on the chart, 2.5 hours before the meal, here's what happens. Let's say, in this particular case that I've given as an example, about 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., that's the first wave of insulin response period. Now, you start making insulin prior to your meal. That's why, if you're doing OMAD properly, you start to get hungry for your meal about 2.5 or so hours before. That's normal. That's when you exhibit your self-control and you say, I know I need to wait until the eating window opens before I start eating. And of course, if you're doing that properly, you are eating everything together. You're getting done as fast as you can, ideally. And when you're done, and you're back into fasting. So the first wave of insulin is made and starts to trickle into the bloodstream. The hunger begins. The anticipation of eating makes the hunger gradually more intense. During the 2.5 hours prior to your eating window, that is normal because your body's revving up to start responding. Understand something about insulin. It's based off of your patterns. So, of course, you start to get gradually hungry before it's time to eat. Your body becomes the most responsive to insulin again and expects to have the opportunity to begin feeding your cells with what you eat. So, in other words, your body's a habit mechanism. It starts to say, if you ate at 4 p.m. yesterday, you're going to eat then again, or however often you eat. If you're at OMAD, you eat once. So what you do is your body develops the pattern around that. But your first wave of insulin is prior to the meal because it takes your body some time to release it into the insulin into the bloodstream to bring back down your insulin levels. If it didn't do that, then that would lead to trouble. Your sugar would get too high. Sometimes people email me a lot of blood sugar questions, and they say, I'm not diabetic, but I hit 175 the other day. And of course, my next question is, did your sugar come back down? And of course, they're like, oh yeah, it came back down within 10, 20, 30 minutes. Then you're fine because it didn't stay high. But usually a healthy person's blood sugar will never dip above 140. And the reason for that is because if you're eating when your body can predict, the first wave insulin response gets a jump on things. So that's why you get hungry a couple hours before your OMAD meal. So bear that in mind. But in a few cases, if you eat when your body doesn't expect, then you will jump your insulin higher, your sugar higher than it normally goes. So you might hit 200 briefly, but you will usually come back down. That's the way you know if you have trouble with your sugars. It will stay high, but if you don't, it will come right back down. So bear that in mind. The first waves of insulin begin before you start eating. The blood starts to get little bits of these little tiny units of insulin, and you get hungry because your sugar's going lower. That's normal. So the 4-hour eating window begins. Remember, I didn't just say, ooh, 4-hour eating window. That's pretty cool. I think I'm just going to tell everybody to do that. The reason I did that is because you need some flexibility from day to day in your schedule. Everybody does. Your body remains flexible for food consumption in this window. Energy uptake begins. It is your preferred time to eat. Your body gets used to it. Now, here's the points. The first, of course, you can read this. Teach yourself to only eat during the set time within the window. Do not tease your metabolism with caloric beverages or foods of any kind during the fasting portion. That's what most of you goof. You start saying, and you send me emails, well, what if I have coffee with a whole bunch of fat and butter and cream in it? Well, my response is the same. You're going to even though it gets less of an insulin response than carb foods, you can still get fat and start to mess with your fast, and your body is going to start expecting you to eat again. That's the bad way to go. So, and then do not change meal times too often. Some people change meal times too often, and then they email me about it. And they say, well, 2 weeks ago I made it this time, and then another week I made. Well, if you do that, you're going to start getting hungrier because your body can't predict as well when you're eating. And so as a result, you're going to be making insulin more often, and you're going to be hungrier, and it's going to be like you're starting over again. And let me tell you, folks, that's what happens. You will start to feel bad again, and you'll start losing some of the benefits that you initially gained. Keep the actual mealtime within the eating window as short as possible. Another big tip, unless you are one of those who has to have a longer mealtime because you can't eat as much. That's the only exception to the last point there. Remember, eat and be done with it is one of the big OMAD philosophies. So here are the hours after the meal: 9 p.m., 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. in this particular example, 9 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. the next day. After the eating window closes, your body shuts down to the effects of insulin and over time becomes, quote, insulin resistant in a good way. Now go back and research this here. Everybody gets so afraid when they hear the term insulin resistant because usually it's associated with diabetes, but it's not in this case. Insulin resistance has a place in your life too. Go back and look up the bear's response to fasting. What happens with a bear is during the fast, they become insulin resistant. They're not laying in the cave hungry during the fast. Their body turns off the expectation to be receiving nourishment for their cells. Once your body has adjusted, you are metabolically very much like a real bear in hibernation. This is your productivity period. Learn to be happy, content, and at peace within it. So if you've been doing OMAD and you've found that it's very good for you, and you're enjoying life, you're getting the mental energy, you're getting the growth hormone, you're getting the peace that comes with fasting, honor it and respect it and understand that you achieve that through your body shutting off the expectation to eat. And again, look at the bears for this. They're finding out now that this is also something humans do. That's why you're not hungry all the time. That's why you write me letters and you say, wow, for the first time in years, I'm not hungry. It's because your body is getting a rhythm, something you've probably never had going back a very long time. And then, of course, you cycle back through the next feeding time, 2:30 p.m. to just about when you're supposed to eat. Your insulin you become insulin sensitive again. Your body starts making insulin, it gets into the blood, you get hungry. That's how it's supposed to go. But folks, it can't happen if you don't allow your body the stability it needs to get a pattern. So again, do what I said in the other video. Trust your body to create the pattern and let the pattern do a lot of the work for you.